what's up, Katella Chronicles fans? Dominick Lorenz here with you for another episode of the Katella Chronicles podcast with your host, as always, Dominick Lorenz. Now, typically, it's David Goodkind as my co-host, but David had some things he's got to do. He'll be on part 2 of this episode. We're trying a little bit something new right now because we have a terrific guest and co-host for part 1 of episode number 16. I turn it over to our wonderful friends and partners over at Halos In The Infield, ToddFox, in the house for part 1. Todd, how's it going, my brother?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Dominick?
Hey, can't complain. The Angels taking 2 of 3 from the White Sox. We're still hanging above 500. We can take a semi side of relief for the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like we've had added pressure all season. We're kind of, this is the earliest we've looked at the standings for a while, but you see the competition in the East, you see the competition in our own division, and you can't help but say, hey, man, what's this team doing? What's this team doing? And you hope that you're playing Rally Chris specials of 2 out of 3 to keep pace.
Well, the proverbial monkey is off the Angels' backs right now because at this time last year, the Angels were in the midst of that nasty double-digit losing streak that we want to forget about. After an incredible April and early month of May, the team just, boom, sunk to the bottom of the ocean. They've gotten a couple wins here at the end of May, so we can forget all about that old-fashioned losing streak that derailed 2022. So that, as I said, proverbial monkey is off the back for now.
True. And right now, I mean, like, this team's just got to focus in on being semi-consistent. And, and then we've been saying and throwing that word around for the last 2-3 seasons, ever since I met you, that's one thing we've been wanting to do is just be consistent. And we're hoping that this team can finally turn that page and become that team because the talent is there.
Yeah, consistency and depth has been the 2 biggest items for the Angels that we've been harping on for a very long time. I know my normal co-host, David, he's always about depth. And the Angels addressed that this offseason, and we'll get into this later in part 1 of the podcast, how that depth has really helped the Angels so far through the first 2 months of this season. But before we get into everything, because we got a juicy first part of this episode here for you, the fans, on episode number 16, want to remind you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe everything for Katella Chronicles, our website, www.katellachronicles.wordpress.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Katella_CHRON. And I know Todd's got some wonderful things for Halos in the Infield, the promo as well.
Yeah, just real quick, if you guys want to get tickets at a lower price, it's always a good time to with Halos in the Infield. Just put HITI upon checkout under the apply code now. You get 10% off no matter what you're getting. It's not just one ticket for one specific program or game or a concert. It's for every time you use our code, you get 10% off. You get an additional 5% for the next time. So you just keep racking up the dough. Plus, you get entered in to win a free jersey courtesy of Halos in the Infield, also Katella Chronicles, and 714 Tickets. And with our partnership with 714 Tickets and also Katella Chronicles, and you mentioned either one of those or Halos in the Infield, when you go to Noble Ale Brewery, you get $1 off of any kind of pint there. So, hey, if you're thirsty, there you go.
Let the good times roll. Todd has been doing a fantastic job with Halos in the Infield, getting some terrific sponsorship, not only for Halos in the Infield, but allowing everybody under the Heedy umbrella to reap those benefits as well. And I know Katella Chronicles is thrilled to have Heedy as a terrific partner here with Angels baseball. And, Todd likes a little Ducks hockey every once in a while in the fall. So that always is a benefit as well.
Love the Ducks hockey. I just was so disappointed we didn't get the #1 draft pick, but that's a story for another day.
If you listen to the last podcast episode, David and I had a very stulty response to everything that happened. Ducks fans that listen to the podcast, you all know that we do not have any love for the Chicago Blackhawks or Gary Bettman or anybody affiliated with that lottery cheap shot of a draft. So in the past, get the #2 pick, move on for the future if you're the Ducks. But before we get into even more Angel stuff, Todd and I have a wonderful announcement that we want to break for the first time on a podcast here today. Circle your calendars. Friday, June the 9th, the Angels take on the Seattle Mariners at home. It's Apple TV Plus's Game of the Week. So our very own Mr. Wayne Randazzo will be on the call for that one. So he gets to stay in Anaheim for a weekend. But just like last year, and the anniversary of that original live stream actually is June 1st, which when we record this podcast is technically tomorrow because it's the last day of May now, but that's all schematics. Todd and I are going to be sitting down once again for another Angels live stream event on the Heedy YouTube channel. It's going to be a fantastic night. We're going to be calling the Angels and Mariners game. So if you don't have Apple TV, you can come on to the Halos in the Infield YouTube page. Follow us. I am going to be in studio with Todd for the very first time. That's exciting for me. It's going to be a great night of calling the game. I know will be some good promotions with 714 tickets, Noble Ale Works, and much, much more, as well as some potential giveaways as well. Todd, first off, cheers for doling out the studio for 6ix9ine, wink, wink, and much, much more. So what do you think? The live stream is going to happen once again?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I thought, last year we kind of got robbed with that game. We had all the right setup, and the game just did not go the way we thought it would. So it was more garbage time, but we appreciated everyone that was on last year. I think we're going to get a lot more people this year. Obviously, the YouTube page has grown, and the more people you could bring over from Katella, the better. And, if, you called a great game last year, you do that in your spare time also for work. So, I mean, hey, man, Dominick's got the golden voice. I'm just there to, just chime in every now and then.
You'll be my color guy for the night.
There you go. I'll be your Gooby. I'll try to break down the pitches and stuff. But, it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Having you in studio for the first time is going to be awesome. We'll have the TV right here to watch it live, and then we'll have the StatCast on one side, our mugs on the other side, and we'll be calling the game live. So there you go. Turn down your TV like old school and listen to us.
The sultry sound of Dom and Todd is going to be what's going to be going down on June 9th. It's going to be a great night. So glad. We're hoping this is going to be the first of many more this season, and hopefully in the future. I know, as Todd already mentioned, yes, in my spare time, I do broadcasting at the high school and minor league level. So my time recently has been very stretched out, but now that summer, kids are on vacation, June, July, and August are going to be some good months for me to sink my teeth in once again to some more broadcasting with Todd and Halos in the Infield. So Katella Chronicles and Halos in the Infield, reuniting once again on the YouTube page.
Reunited, and it feels so good. But one last thing I gotta say, Dominick, is on that 9th and maybe a few Fridays looking ahead, if we're able to make this a thing, or at least a once a month, twice a month type deal, I'm down, because there's a lot of people that don't like Patrick O'Neill. So if you're
now that you mention it, Patio is not a beloved character in the Angels. Personally, I got nothing against the guy. I love a guy that shows emotion, which is great, but I know maybe it's a tale of two cities for some people. But if Fridays is the way to go, who knows? Fans, let us know what you want after June 9th. If you love the sultry sounds of Dom and Todd, maybe that's the name of the live stream. We're going to keep rolling with some Fridays or weekends with KC and Heedy. So we'll kind of feel it out, but I'm always down. I know Todd's always down. Again, look at the beautiful studio he's got behind him. It's been, I don't want to say new and improved, but updated and improved through the off season and early portion of 2023.
There's much more room in here. It's more soundproof. I got better equipment, and there's a fridge next door loaded with beer. So we could
This could be a very, very, very interesting night. And for the fans that might not look on future projections, or especially on the Angels page on ESPN.com, they show a buttload of pitching probables for like a good 10 days. Mm-hmm. As of right now, June 9th, Apple TV Game of the Week, which is our live stream, the pitching matchup is projectedly to be between Luis Castillo for the Mariners against Shohei Ohtani of the Angels. So we might get lucky, as long as Phil Nevin isn't a numbnut and changes the rotation by any means necessary. We could be calling an Ohtani game, which would be nice for ratings. I will say that.
I will say that as well, because Luis Castillo was one of those guys we wanted from when the page was incepted, that we really wanted as an Angel pitcher. He was dangled out there. There was trade proposals, but it just never went through. Now he's pitching for the bad guys, and he's pitching really good. And we know what Ohtani brings to the table. So, yeah, that is going to be two heavyweights going toe-to-toe. So if that is the matchup, and like you said, philosophy doesn't mess it up, I like what the game we're going to call. It's going to be much better than last year's. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and nothing against last year's call. It was the Angels at the Astros. It started off great. I predicted a Shohei home run in the first inning, the pitch before, and boom, when we thought we had the luck. And then a bad second or third inning for our good old friend Michael Lorenzen while his mom was on Zoom. We felt internally so bad that she had to endure that, and you heard it in her voice. She was like, I'm glad to be here, but I want to throw a TV against the wall. And props to Cheryl Lorenzen for sticking around that long with us that night.
Yeah, last thing I'll say about that game is I remember just wanting that inning to end so bad. I was like, bro, this is taking way too long. Get that third out already.
We endured some pain last year, not just during the losing streak, during the live stream, and much after that. But looking for better times, regardless of how it goes. It's our first live stream of the 2023 season. Looking for more, but you always got to start at 1. And June 9th on the Heedy YouTube page. Todd's going to be the tech guru, getting everything done. I'll be in studio. We'll have a nice pregame show. We'll go through the play-by-play coverage. And, of course, we'll kind of streamline into Todd's post-game show. So it's going to be a fantastic night for baseball, for Katella Chronicles and Heedy. All of that aside, we're going to start promoting it in a couple of days on social media and throughout next week. So like, comment, subscribe, share it out, get everybody onto the page. We want the views. No offense to Wayne Randazzo. He gets enough views from the East Coast fan bias. We want the Angel fans on our page or Heedy's page that night. But enough of the business at hand. We'll sweep that under the rug. Business at hand, check that off the list. Let's get to some Angel baseball. They just take 2 of 3 from the Chicago White Sox. Game 3, the series finale, this afternoon in a big 12-5 victory. Home runs a palooza. Chicks dig the long ball. And there was a bunch of highs and a couple of lows in this series. Why not? Let's start off with the highs. The Angels crack out 9 home runs over the 3 games. Ohtani and Ward come to life. Mike Trout a little bit as well. Overall thoughts, we'll start off of the Chicago series for you, Todd, taking 2 of 3 from the Southsiders.
Pretty good high. I was impressed by the bullpen work, except for Tucker Davidson today. But for the most part, the bullpen work looked I would say Tyler Anderson and Tucker. Outside of that, I like the bullpen. Like you said, Trout got a key hit in the game 1. Sorry, I'm starting so much. And then you had Ohtani getting going there. You had productive outs by Gio Urshela. Thaiss continues to hit. You just had some very nice at bats in game 1 and 3. I'll say that as much. But I did like the way Jaime pitched today. And the bullpen. What more can you say about Ben Joyce? And I was kind of scared, like feeling that, oh my God, they're going to bring in Joyce in a 1-run game. Where I'm used to is Socha and other managers saying, okay, bring in a guy like this in a game like today when you have a big lead. Let him pitch, get some work in. But they put him in a high-pressure situation, and he dominated. And he threw his first 2 pitches at about 102 and got strikes, pinpoint accuracy, like we've been scared and hearing differently in the minors. But he threw that 3rd pitch, which is an 87-mile-per-hour slider, and the dude just did a nice job of putting it into center field. And then something changed, whether it was Thaiss or him, and he just decided, you know what, I'm going fastball. You can't catch it. Prove me wrong. And he got the next 3 guys. And that was great. I thought that he looked really ready for that moment. And I was really encouraged by that.
That's the one thing I like about Phil Nevin's philosophy, quote unquote, that he has no problem throwing guys in the fire. And sometimes it is trial by fire, and we've seen it gone the absolute negative way. But Ben Joyce is a proper example of it going in the right direction with the right mindset, with the right kid to do so. We've heard all about Zach Neto when they drafted him. We heard about Ben Joyce, and we've heard all about Sam Bachman. Guess what? All 3 of those guys are wearing the Angel red and white right now. And even though Bachman didn't have a terrific, fabulous shout from the rooftops debut, he still went in there, got the job done, got a couple of punch outs. Joyce keeps a close game close in the Angels' favor. And Neto, well, he's not Tim Anderson to all those folks that think, Tim Anderson's the call to the Angels, but all three of those guys, that's what they have similarly. They were trial by fire, but so far they've come out in the positive direction. So there's a lot of not so great things to say about Phil Nevin early on through the first 2 months of the season, but that's one thing I'll give him credit for this season, kind of like I did last year with Phil Nevin. He would go out to the mound if it was a pitcher, kind of pump him up, let him work out of his own thing. And if it worked out, great. If it didn't, well, you got to give these guys chances. They're $1 million baseball players. You can't treat them with kid gloves. They got to go out there and earn their money and get those wins. He did that last year, and he's doing it this year. Instead of with the veterans, he's doing it with the young kids. So I will take that any day of the week from a manager supporting his players. That's the, where's your honk? That's my Halo honk little button for Phil Nevin.
Okay. I'll have to fire that up. I had that off since the post game. Let me get it right here. I'll give you the exploratory.
There we go. See, there's the little half, exploratory little Halo honk moment of the podcast here in part one. But it is true. I really enjoyed seeing Ben Joyce, and I'll eat a little crow on Ben Joyce because we're going to dish out some crow to other people in our favor in a little bit. I thought Ben Joyce was going to be a guy maybe we wouldn't see till September.
Me too.
Give him more time at AA and potentially AAA. He was playing in college last year in the college playoffs against Zach Neto when Zach Neto was at Campbell and Joyce was with Tennessee. So barely a year removed from college, he goes straight to AA, absolutely goes crazy with maybe some walk issues, but comes to the major leagues in his first appearance and potentially almost got in 2 days in a row, but the situation didn't work out in the Game 2 loss to the White Sox. He comes in, fires over 100 miles an hour consistently, paints the outside corners, which is deadly, which I don't think the Angels have seen somebody paint the corners at that speed. Maybe, and this is a shot in the dark, prime Ernesto Frieri. Remember when he could gauge 98 to crispin 100 a little bit right after we got him from the Padres?
True.
Like, that kind of gave me that feeling a little bit. So for Joyce to come in, do his business, I'm all for it. I'll eat crow on that one. I said he should stay down until September. Call him up now because definitely this bullpen needs to work, especially with Loop Diddy Loop not working out well. Tepera to the track wall and gone. And unfortunately, a big gut punch of Matt Moore going to be shelved for at least a month with that grade 2 oblique strain.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough too. I mean, the first one was losing Quijada, but you found out who Estevez was after that. But you had Moore, and Moore was just doing his thing, Mr. Reliable. And they were bringing it up in the postgame show, hey, how would you do with philosophy only pitching these guys one night? And I said, well, if a Ben Joyce can do what he did in Chicago and be anywhere consistent with that moving forward, maybe you go Estevez one night for a save, being set up by Moore when he's healthy, and then go Ben Joyce setting up Davinsky for the next save if you don't want to pitch Estevez. And that's what I wanted to touch on before we move on.
Yeah.
3 other guys that I was really impressed with in this weekend series and even against the Marlins. Chris Davinsky's been a godsend since he's been called up and brought off the scrap heap. You got Webb, who's also pitched very good. He had that one hiccup where he gave up the 2-run homer, and even that was a pitch down out of the zone, and the hitter just did a great job with it. I mean, he's pitched really good. And then Silseth, you ask him to go to the back end or you bring him into the bullpen. I know he pitched a little, gave up was a little wobbly the other night, gave up a run, but for the most part, he's been good. So, I mean, the new reconstructed bullpen, Dominique, what do you think about it?
I'm loving it. Shout out to Davinsky, Cal State Fullerton alum. Congratulations to him. Coming over from the Astros to the Angels, staying in the AL West, familiar with this territory. And he started the year at AAA, and he was dominating AAA because he's a major league talent, but the Angels really had something in him, but it didn't really fit because Jimmy Herget was up here at the beginning of the year. Tepera was healthy. Well, with Herget being flippity-flop between Salt Lake and here, Davinsky got his opportunity. And sidebar on Jimmy Herget, you know how big of a Jimmy Herget fan I am. And I'm a little upset that the Angels are somewhat misusing him a little bit, but they want him to work on some stuff. So hopefully it works out because I do believe Jimmy Herget is a key piece to this Angels bullpen. He's just got to figure it out a little more. But Davinsky has been a godsend. 12 appearances in the month of May with a sub 2.5 ERA, coming out in clutch spots and 6 consecutive appearances without allowing an earned run. He has the most inherited runners on base when he comes into pitch in his first month with the Angels. Did that right there. You know, inherited runners have always been a thing for the Angels bullpen because we've always had starters that can't get out of the 4th inning or the 5th inning or go deep or even get that 3rd and final out and cause, you know, okay, he got 1 out in the 6th. There's 2 on, 1 out, got to bring somebody in. The Angels are always a mark of tradition. And our lovely friend Courtney was telling us about that in the group chat. I don't know if you saw it during today's game. Why is it so hard for the Angels to get that 3rd and final out in an inning, especially after either tying or getting the lead the half inning prior? It's mind-boggling at times, but Devenski has been A+ solid. I was at the first game against Boston of the homestand, and he came in after Berea was pulled and Luke got into some trouble. Boom, boom, boom. 4 batters, 4 outs, multiple strikeouts. He's got that tough as nails mentality. And right now, if Joyce is going to be here to stay and they're not going to play the swing game, I really think you can solidify the back end of the bullpen when healthy, when on their game the right way. Devenski, Joyce, Estevez, and I would keep Joyce in the 8th inning right now. I don't want to build him up too much. You know, Estevez has pretty much locked in that closer role. He's had some moments where it's like, easy does it. Let's not get too crazy. But we have seen him strike out a side, ball game over, and it's been great. So Devenski 7th, Joyce 8th, Estevez in the 9th. When healthy and when sharp, I'm not complaining. I won't say anything. This bullpen will be much improved. And when you get more back healthy to be that middle relief swing guy, anything else at that point, I would say, you know, 1 or 2 pieces need to come along. But this bullpen has looked much improved when on with those 3 guys.
And what I take out of all the names that you just dropped, either that are in the minors or going to be moved up and down, because obviously you got to make places when these guys come back in. But you got Webb, you got Weiss. There's other pitchers too that have done decently for the Angels. That, what are we talking about? Depth, and we'll get into that later, like you said. But that's a good thing to have. It's a good problem to have, because now maybe we can get those bridge gaps from the starters to that 8th inning and 9th inning, to where we know, hey, about 80% of the time we're going to win now, or higher a percentage to win, instead of having 11 blown games in about 28 chances after the 7th inning, which is, I think, somewhere in the top 5 of most in the league. So we want to stay away from that, because obviously we could have a far better record had we closed out those games the proper way with a better bullpen.
You know, right now with the Angels, I would say 85 to 90% of the games so far this season have been pitchers' faults, that the Angels have lost those tight games. The offense was something coming into the season that I was absolutely not worried about when everybody was hot. Even when Ohtani and Trout were struggling for the last couple of weeks, the supportive depth pieces like Thaiss, like Neto, Urshela, you name it, they have stepped up in a very big way. And that has really helped this Angels offense, because if Trout and Ohtani were down last year, the year before, this team would probably be 6, 7, 8 games under 500 at this point. Instead, we're a +3, which is not great in comparison to how strong Houston is now gaining and Texas has been all season. So it's kind of a catch-22. But I'd rather be +3 than -8 in the games back department or the 500 record department. So when you look at it as a whole, I can trust in, let's say in a 10-game span, I can for sure say 8 to 9 out of the 10 games, the offense is going to get 5 or more runs in a game. Is the pitching going to hold up? If it's the bullpen side of things, or is it the starter side of things? Who's going to have the good day? Because, you know, in Angels lore and tradition, hitting and pitching cannot be the same on the same day. I think the last time we got that was the Detmers no-hitter last year. That was probably the last time we purely had a phenomenal pitching and hitting showcase from the Angels. So when you put it all together, top to bottom, offense doesn't worry me. When we had that struggle against Miami, did it suck to get swept? And especially against a 500 team like Miami, yes. But the pitching was pretty good. And you know, the hitting, what goes around comes around. And we saw it here. 6 runs on Monday. Yes, Tuesday was a kind of a yikes piece, but then dropping 12 runs today. The Angels can score in bunches, and they can do it early and often. They've scored early in a game a lot this season. So pitching just has to figure it out, and you go through your stride each and every game at that point. From now, June 1st and into the future, probably till the trade deadline, to see where the Angels will be at.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't seen this team at 100% all year. We still haven't. I mean, Walshy comes back, Rendon goes down. So we're waiting for, if the keys to this team, we know what we're going to get from Trout and Ohtani, but you get the guys like Drury getting hot. Renfroe went ice cold in the month of May, was our hottest hitter in April. He's kind of gone on, just opposite of what he usually is in May. He's usually hot, but now they're saying, he's get ready for a breakout June. I'd love it. Welcome it, because, Rendon gets back. Let's face it. You're not happy with the home run production, the RBI, but he's getting sacrifices. He's walking. He's getting on base. He's figuring it out. He's getting singles. Okay, fine. He's not that hitter that we thought, but if he's given us what he did before he got hurt, limit the errors. Again, Ward getting hot, which was a plus in this series. If he can stay hot or just get his average over 250 again, because right now he's still struggling around 230, but it's those guys. It's the Urshela's of the world who's been consistently just a all-around good hitter. And the emergence of Thaiss and Wallach solidifying a catching position that we thought, damn, we're devastated after, no Stassi all year. Ohapi, great start, leading the team in home runs and RBIs, then has to have the surgery. So, I mean, there's a lot of positive. And then I didn't even bring up Neto. Neto just stole the shortstop position from everybody. And that guy, even when he has an off night, he's still productive because of his defense. He's not just a squid who can make a couple plays. Yeah, he saves a couple runs, but he doesn't give you anything. Zach can draw the walk. He can get hit. He can get a hit, and now he's starting to get some power as well. So, yeah, you're right. This team can score in all kinds of runs and innings, but it's just a consistency. And I think I'm on to what you're selling as far as the pitching. The pitching is starting to settle down a bit, start getting a little bit more consistent. They seem to be jumping ahead of the offense right now. And I think with the bullpen getting itself together, good things can happen. If this team just plays, how half it should be as far as their talent. They score 4 to 5 runs. It could get us a lot more wins because we'll be able to trust that back into the bullpen, not relying on Tapera and Loop and other guys who've come in and out of here.
There's a lot of storylines that can really go with the Angels right now. You named off a bunch right there. I won't repeat them, but this is where this team is. And for 3 games over 500, you would think the Angels only have 3 or 4 storylines that are kind of tipping out, balancing out. There's a lot of strong things. It's about getting it together and getting hot at the right time. And we say this every year. Look at the Phillies last year. They got hot at the right time and ascended to the World Series. Even though they lost, they still made it a decent way. If you ask Philly fans, when they swept us at the May, June time last year, we're not going to make the playoffs. We just fired a manager. We're 6 games under 500. Boom, 89 wins gets into the World Series. That's baseball for you folks. That's just how it is.
Can they thank us for that, by the way?
Brandon Marsh, baby. Brandon freaking Marsh. Jesus ascended down to Philadelphia for them. You're welcome, Philly fans. But it's true. There's so many storylines, and we'll put a pause on pitching for a minute because there's some unfortunate negative marks and I don't want to say negative. Let's say improvement marks the Angels need to make, especially in the pitching for a minute. But it's time for us to take front seat for a minute. Todd and I, for the last 2 days, have been talking in our group chat and individually, and basically not thrilled with the performances of Ward and Ohtani. That's as clean of a way as I could say it right now.
That's as PC as you can, yes.
That's as PC as we can be. We are not thrilled with Ward and Ohtani over the past couple of weeks. Ward in a funk, Ohtani in a funk. We know how good and great they can be.
Mm-hmm.
So don't play that way. Go work your butt off, figure it out, and do the job. What happens after Todd and I, before game 2 of this 3-game series against the White Sox, what happens? Ohtani has 3 home runs in 2 days. 2 are the longest home runs at guaranteed rate fields history. Ward busts out with a 2-home run series. Yeah. So, Todd, would you like to have your Oscar acceptance speech right now for us contributing to Ohtani and Ward's rise back to fame?
I would like to thank Mr. Ward and Mr. Ohtani for listening to what we were spewing and taking the criticism on the chin and realizing, hey, you know what? We're going to eat crow and we're going to hit some home runs for you and make you look better. So thank you, Mr. Ward, and thank you, Mr. Ohtani, because it was deserved that you guys got it going, because how you guys go in the lineup is how this team can win games. And if Ward is up there in the cleanup spot where he was today, or even at the leadoff spot, he's able to do half of what he's been up to lately, because he wasn't living up to the billing. He was just an easy out, automatic out. But if he can make contact, just get on base, good things are going to happen behind him in either way. Or he could be behind Ohtani and Trout and drive him in, and we're all going to scream.
See, there you go. See, right there. For my acceptance speech, I'm going to tip my cap to everybody that's watching and listening. More so just tip of the cap to Todd, because we were on the same wavelength about this. It's hard to see guys that we know that can deliver each and every game. They have the talent. They've shown it before. Slumps are never easy. Baseball is a game of adversity and slumps and finding your way out of that. Ohtani and Ward, hopefully the last 48 hours have really found their way, and it's a perfect timing to go into that Houston Astros 4-game set as hot as possible, because we know the Angels do not have a great time at Minute Maid Park. It's been a struggle ever since the Astros came into the AL West. So get hot at the right time. Let's do it. So I will say Taylor Ward, I like him to the middle, to the bottom of the order to lengthen it out. Now that goes with saying Rendon is on the shelf right now on the IL. That's the only kind of asterisk to that. The only problem is when you have Ward and Renfroe in the same lineup and no Mickey Moniak, who's your leadoff hitter? Because I personally love Zach Neto in the 9-hole. I think he's a terrific table center in the middle of the games, third inning and beyond, to really get on base and reset that top of the order. So it's really hard to put Neto. He's really your only leadoff type player if Renfroe and Ward are in the game and not Moniak, who Moniak at this point would be the traditional leadoff hitter, because you're not going to put Trout. You're not going to put Ohtani. We've tried those experiments before. Those days are behind us. And you're not going to put a Thaiss or a Wallach or a Jared Walsh in the leadoff spot. So the Angels, I would say, don't really have a true number one leadoff guy. But if Ward can do it on a consistent basis, I'm fine with Ward at the top spot.
Yeah, the problem is he hasn't been able to. And between him and Renfroe, they've been rolling into a lot of double plays. So, we need to stay away from that as well. I would love, and see, the thing is too, Phil does not like lefty on lefty, especially in the leadoff spot. So Moniak will lose at bats when that's the issue. So that's where Ward has got to be key in coming out of this tailspin. And hopefully, like you said, he had a nice 3-game series here against Chicago. Hopefully he could take that into Houston in that short perch and really help the Angels either bang one off that wall or hit it over. And that would be nice.
They took advantage of the reverse split yesterday against Giolito early in the game, and, it ended up being a loss. But you can see that. So if Ward is traditionally a starter, but if he can be a starter/role player when Nevin makes those philosophy moves of lefty versus lefty, righty versus righty, and so on and so forth, next man up mentality. If it's one day Mickey Moniak, if it's the next day Taylor Ward, be ready and drive in runs or get on base. Do what you got to do at this point while Rendon is still on the IL. That we're saying this all, and to boot, Rendon has a 301 average.
Yeah.
Which is the crazy thing. I know he only has 1 home run. I'm not too concerned about the power. Like, he doesn't have to be a 20 home run guy. Does his contract say he needs to be a 20 home run guy? Absolutely. Because you can debate whether his contract is the worst in Angels history. That's a whole nother time, in the grand scheme of Angels baseball. But Rendon lengthens and balances a lineup. I've been a proponent about that. So getting him to stay healthy and just be a presence in that lineup, even if he's 0 for 4, he can be like Gio Urshela. hit the ball the opposite way, treat it like a sacrifice bunt, sacrifice fly, situational hitting, get a walk. That's where he can really lengthen and give opportunity to this Angels lineup. And Renfroe's not normally the cleanup guy. It's been Rendon. Renfroe's after that. So who knows? Did that contribute to a Renfroe hot April, cold May? That could go into the conversation as well. So there's a lot of key pieces in this Angels lineup from top to bottom. And with Perry Manassian adding to the infield depth, the Urshela's, the Drurys, the emergence of Zach Neto, Walsh returning, and he looks healthy, he looks happy, and he produced today with 3 RBIs. If you can get 2021 Walsh back, that's another key piece to this puzzle. And you're going to have to find spots in a lineup, basically 9 spots for like 13 productive guys. That's not going to be an easy situation. But as we said, next man up mentality.
And you know what? That's opposite of last year. I keep referring to last year, but last year we had 9 spots for 3 guys that, 3 guys that were capable of taking those 9 spots. The rest were all trash. But yeah, I agree. And you know what? One thing I liked today was 2 good hits by Walsh that if the shift were available this year would have been outs. But that's where he was taking advantage of the shift not being there. Kudos to him, because there's nothing. I mean, it's not like we don't like the guy. We'd love for Walsh to be good. And as far as your notes on Rendon, you were great with that, because again, if this is the Rendon we're going to see that's hitting 300, if this is a guy who's going to get on base in front of Trout and Ohtani or behind them, drive them in, because he does still lead the team with the amount of time he's missed with sacrifice RBIs. He's got 15 of his 20 some odd RBIs are sacrifices. And that's him just being a good hitter, saying, okay, like you said, we have second and third. Let me fly one out to center with 1 out. Let me ground to the right side, get the out, score the runner from third. I'll take that any day than a strikeout. I mean, we saw enough strikeouts and leaving guys and runners in scoring position. So yeah, I mean, if we're overpaying for him to do that, as long as we're winning, I can swallow that pill.
And that's where I'm going to give props. Before we hit the record button, I was trying to remember off the top of my mind the Angels hitting coach, new hitting coach, Marcus Thames. Thames. He has done a phenomenal job in one specific category that grinded our gears all last year. Strikeouts. The theme of it's better to strike out than ground into a double play. And that horrible post-game press conference, I forget what game it was, from Sorrento and Reed and Nevin saying, oh yeah, I agree with that. I'm so glad those days are hopefully over. Now, he's done a terrific job with the depth of his team and fixing things. Look how quick the Phillies fixed Brandon Marsh after the trade deadline last year. Boop, it happened fast. Brandon Drury struggles in April, back half of April and all of May. Drury's a whole different player. Now he's got to get on his horse and help Renfroe get right and get some other guys right. But you're seeing those mid-game, mid-month, mid-series changes in players' batting approaches. Now, in the month of May, the Angels went 15-13. They had 254 strikeouts, which is top 10. Okay, not great. But if you look at April, they only had about 220, and they were 20th or less in the strikeout category. Again, the lower the placement you are, the better. You don't want to be number 1 in strikeouts, which the Angels were constantly top 5 every month last year with the Squiddy Poos of the world, and no offense to the Phil Goose Goslins of the world that were just swinging and missing. Different mindset, different coach, different mentality. The Angels were putting the ball in play, and like we see from Gio Urshela, yeah, he goes 1 for 4, but 2 of his hits contribute to getting them around the base and getting some insurance runs or whatever the case may be. So top to bottom, I love what Thames has done with the hitting, and we've harped on it enough beautifully here in the part 1 of episode 16 of the Katella Chronicles podcast. This offense is something to behold. You know, like the Boston Celtics said before game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, don't give us 1 game. Even though they lost the series, let's not get into basketball here. But even though they didn't win the series, they at least made it exciting and went to 7 games. And that's what the Angels are doing. The offense is really exciting when they are on.
Yeah, and this is something that I think you can agree with me on. Is I don't think, I clearly think the best we have not seen yet. I think the best is yet to come with this offense. Where I'd like to see them improve too is stealing bases. They've got the guys and the dogs to steal bases. I know it would help to have Renifo be more prominent in the lineup because I know he takes off a lot. But Moniak, I'd like to see him run a lot. He's, in his opportunities he's had done that. Ohtani's been surprising, but you got 0 from Trout, which is kind of disappointing. I'd like to see him run. I mean, he wears the protection to run, but doesn't take advantage of it. There is a lot of guys on this team that could steal some bases, and I just think, we're at the bottom, and we could really make things work if we were to hit and run a little bit more, if we were to steal bases, put more pressure on the pitchers. And then, of course, that thing that escapes Nevin's mouth, which is it's sort of like him. You know how like a man can't say a certain word to a woman? Well, Nevin can't say a certain word, and that's bunt. He can't muster to say it.
It's true. It's 100% true. Small ball is not in the philosophy dictionary this year.
It's not. It's been X'd out. You know how like some of those dictionaries, we take words out of the dictionary and we add them. Well, bunt was not one of the ones we kept for sure. And we don't do that. And I think that if we worked on that, so many situations where we're first and second to avoid double plays that we've been hitting into would be X'd out if we were to bunt and sacrifice and make it work. So you're giving these runs and you should be able to take advantage of it. And I think that's what needs to change too. If anything needs to be worked on, I think it's the small ball aspect of this team, because like what you were saying, these hitters have been hitting a lot better under Thames, and they've been doing a lot better in the box.
One thing that I have noticed, especially over the last homestand, that, it sometimes you do it and it maybe doesn't click instinctively that moment that you do it. It might take a couple of games or a couple of weeks for it to set in. Have you noticed the Angels are taking more outside batting practice than they have been over the past couple of seasons?
Yes.
Like, Ohtani's doing it more, Trout's doing it more. And maybe initially in that homestand against Boston and Miami, where maybe it did not look like it was putting pen to paper and nose to the grindstone and their work was going into their work during the game. But you're seeing it maybe a week later of Ohtani coming out of a slump, Ward. Keep doing that. I don't care if you love being indoors and you don't want to be under the sunlight of Southern California and the fans see you taking BP before the game. Screw it. Go out there, do your work. When I was growing up and Sosha was the manager of the Angels, constantly, every game, gates open, people went down to the field, and you saw the Angels repping multiple rounds of BP. I remember seeing Vlad Guerrero, Albert Pujols, big guys going and doing batting practice. Mike Trout early on in his career was a constant for doing outdoor batting practice. And that changed, but now hopefully with Thames at the helm of the hitting side of things, that continues to be a constant. And I don't want to say that's the sole remedy of this Angels offense this season, but it's better to see than last year of, we'll take care of business. We'll get to it. It's fine. Here's the tablet in the middle of the game. Look at it. Figure out what you did wrong and come back later. What is this? The education system in America?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
like, what is this? Figure out your own problems.
I had a theory about that last year when Madden was in charge and we didn't see any batting practice. I had a theory. I thought it was just Madden didn't want the weed smoke outside of the stadium. He wanted to keep it inside where it could just billow around and you could just bathe in the secondhand smoke of the pot, filling the air, because he felt that if they were smoking bongs outside, the smoke would get out. You know what I mean? Like, and you wouldn't be able to get the fresh vibe of the what's it called? The Grateful Dead music. You know what I mean? So
the secrets would be revealed to the opposing team, and they figure out how to, take out the Angels in that sense. But, I love seeing the batting practice. Before we get back to the pitching, as we get closer to closing up shop here on another episode, part 1 of episode number 16. Todd is the wonderful co-host in part 1. David will be coming in part 2 in just a little bit. I want to talk about the Angels catching briefly, because Logan O'Hoppe was going to be our guy. I thought the Angels were going to give him a little more time to kind of cook at AAA, but with Stassi's personal family matters that are going on, we really don't know much from that. O'Hoppe got the opening day roster spot, and he thrived right out of the gate, and then a very tough shoulder injury in New York basically canceled out his season. Now there's reports he may be able to come back late August, early September. He's ahead in his rehab. So, prayers up, heels up to Logan O'Hoppe. We love the guy. Good to have him in the catching platoon. But again, tip the cap right now to Matt Thaiss and Chad Wallach. They have done a phenomenal job holding the fort down, because I think when Logan O'Hoppe went down, we all collectively said, oh, crap. This is not going to be good. That's going to be out. And easy out in our starting lineup. It's not going to be good, because this is the moment now where Todd and I will eat crow. We were pretty much down and out on Matt Thaiss last year. His swing had holes in it. You really didn't know. He was kind of Jekyll and Hyde. He would hit a home run, but couldn't really catch very well, couldn't really play first, couldn't really play third. He was kind of a mishmash, kind of 10 to 20 gamer on a Sunday afternoon. You'd see Matt Thaiss. All of a sudden, the guy's a power hitter in the running on Katella Chronicles for player of the month of May between Urshela, himself, and Chris Davinsky. And Chad Wallach, he's hitting bombs. They are collectively batting over 300 as a catching tandem since April 21st, when Logan O'Hoppe went down. We're surprised. We're going to eat crow about it. I'm pleasantly happy that this is the scenario, and especially Wallach being that veteran, kind of what we wish Kurt Suzuki was the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Kurt wasn't great, he still had that veteran presence in the clubhouse with the catchers, which was nice to see, especially when O'Hoppe came up last September. Wallach has that, but he's got the bat to go with it, and that's been a pleasant surprise, and I'm 100% on board for this. Give me that all day.
Yeah, I am too. I'm going to eat crow as well in that, because, again, when O'Hoppe came out and people were saying, hey, man, this could be rookie of the year. And I was like, I don't know, don't, pump your brakes, man. But then I saw him, the way he was hitting, the way he was just so professional, the way he handled the staff. I'm like, man, all we need to do from Thaiss is not mess things up. And when Thaiss was out there, he had that game against the Yankees where it was two catchers interferences that cost the Angels that game. And I'm like, God, this guy's so stupid. I started mocking him, started giving him the Spicoli voice, like, oh, bro, I can't see, because he looked, he's squinting his eyes, and like, I thought, man, we're going to be a joke. I was just like you. I thought we're going to be a joke, because I thought we kind of screwed with Wallach last year towards the end of the season. He had that real brief 2-week series where he caught the no-hitter from Detmers, and he caught a couple shutouts, and you're like, man, this guy can call a really good game, but he just really can't hit all that good. They sent him down. They bring him up in September. He just doesn't do anything. And then you're thinking in spring training, he's not all that great. And you're like, man, like, he'd be good to just keep down there. Hopefully he could turn around. But if we go to him, it's going to be bad news. And lo and behold, Stassi news, like you said, O'Hoppe goes down. And right away, it's like the epitome of next man up clicked with these two guys. And Thaiss is not, we don't need him to hit home runs. So he wasn't. He was hitting line drives to center, singles, sacrifice flies, driving in runs, walking. Then Wallach, who's not known for his bat at all, comes up there, starts clubbing home runs, pinch hit singles. All of a sudden, he's going the other way, nearly winning a game on a walk-off, hitting a double. I mean, it's very, very exhilarating to watch these two catchers take a role that should not have been theirs and run with it.
If you really put it into perspective, Wallach and Thaiss may have saved us Angel fans from jumping off a cliff when Trout and Ohtani went and scuffled along with Ward. When your top three batters at the top of the order are scuffling for 2 consecutive weeks, and I think I saw a stat on Twitter that said, I forget how many games it spanned across, but Trout and Ohtani combined 9 for 59. I think that was coming into game 2 or before the Chicago White Sox series started. They were 9 for 59. Thaiss, Wallach, Neto, the supportive pieces prevented us from jumping off the cliff, and probably a lot of Angel fans from saying, sell Ohtani now, get something in return. We already knew coming into this season, and this is one episode that I really, don't strike me down, I really don't want to talk about that Ohtani situation, quote unquote, because we're going to hear about it all season long. And if, as we get closer to the trade deadline, every time the Angels lose a game, it's is this the day Ohtani asked for the trade, or is this?
Yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of that conversation. I just want to talk about Ohtani. And right now, it's been me positively talking about Ohtani pitching more than hitting. But today is a phenomenal day to talk about Ohtani hitting. But Thaiss Wallach really helped that situation that we didn't think was going to be that case scenario back at the end of April. So good to see that again, encompassing everything with the offense. It's been a fantastic year for the offense. Get some guys extra hot, get Rendon healthy. They're projecting him to come back when they return home against the Cubs next Tuesday. If that happens, great. Fun thing about Rendon is he hits well in interleague play because he knows the National League so well. So that would, that'd be an interesting case scenario. So offense, I'm happy with. On a scale of 1 to 10, just give me the number, Todd. Mm-hmm. What would you give the Angels' offensive grade through 2 months of the season on a scale of 1 to 10?
7 right now,
Okay.
with room to improve. Like I'm positive, but they still got a little bit to go. But I know they have the talent in them, so that's why I give them a 7.
I'm right along there with you. I'll bump it up just a little bit. I don't want to shoot for the stars too early in 2 months because we no offense, we saw how 2022 went after projecting after 2 months. I'm going to give the offense a nice solid 7.7 out of 10. And shame on me. I didn't tell you, decimals were allowed. I gave you flat numbers, but 7 out of 7 because they're better than a 7. They're not quite an 8, but they're still a pinch better than 7.5 because when you have Trout, Ohtani, Ward, and these key players that we've seen get hot, come into their own, to the supporting pieces like Drury and Urshela and a resurgence of Walsh, this offense could be one of the top 5 potent offenses, not just in the American League, but in Major League Baseball. And that says a lot with big teams like the Astros and the Rangers and the Dodgers when they're hot. It can be that type of offense on a good day. Just got to get the pitching in line. Speaking of pitching, final point here in part 1 of the podcast. Don't want to end it on a negative note, but we'll take a negative and find a way to kind of find a silver lining in this one. Tyler Anderson. It has not been a glorious, jolly 2023 season for Tyler Anderson after finding a way to find a resurgence in his career with the Dodgers last year. Finds a way to find, yet again, his first loss, oddly enough, of the season on record with the Angels. He's 2-1 with a 5.47 ERA last night in Game 2 against the White Sox. 4 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. How worried are we about Tyler Anderson? And what is one thing he can fix in order to salvage something? Because remember, 3 years, $39 million. This isn't a one and done type of situation. I can tell you right now, my number one thing to change, stop allowing these pitchers to call their own pitches. I want the fans to look at me. Stop it. Our pitching coaches need to stop it. I don't care if you're Ohtani. I don't care if you're Verlander. I don't care if you're Tyler Anderson. Let the catchers do their job. And it's teamwork. There's no I in team, folks.
Yeah, I would have to say one thing that a lot of people on the post game have been saying is maybe his high leg kick or the hesitation side kick has to do with him not being able to, find the strike zone or be consistent, especially like you said too, calling his own pitches. Maybe it's got to be radioed into Thaiss on what to call or Wallach. And then on top of that, maybe he develops a slide step because with that pitcher's clock, who knows? Maybe he has maybe he has what do you call it? Maybe he has a better time without the pitch clock, like he did with the Dodgers last year, opposed to this year. I am concerned though with him because again, we're paying him a lot of money. Yeah, he chalked up his first loss finally. We bailed him out a lot of times. He's also killed himself a lot of times with leads and giving up the lead all of a sudden. He's had a similar start to his season like Suarez, where, Suarez would get into about the 3rd inning, maybe 4th inning, and then just give the other team a crooked number. And I think that's been the problem with he's been in his own way. I think he hasn't been able to develop a good strikeout pitch. So he hasn't been that strikeout pitcher. And with the shift gone too, they're hitting the ball where they ain't playing. And then not only that, most of the time 3 walks is low for him. Usually he's around 6 walks, walking too many guys. So when you're not pinpointing your pitches, you're not striking out guys when you are ahead of them, you're giving up 2-out hits, you're not going to fare too well. So it's amazing that he is 2-1, but that ERA speaks volumes. You know, like I told Fernando a number of times, if we can just get out of Anderson a 375 to a low 400 ERA for the year, I can deal with that. You know, like I didn't expect him to be in the 2s like with the Dodgers. But man, oh man, he has not been pitching up to what we thought we were going to get.
He brings me vibes of Andrew Heaney when he was with the Angels. And I hate to say that because, you know, on MLB on Fox, they're promoting how tough as nails the Rangers starting rotation's been. Like, none of their starters over the last 2 weeks have given up 2 or more earned runs, and Heaney's responsible for like 3 of those starts. So it's like, interesting. I wonder how that plays. You know, Marsh success, Heaney success. Okay. But Anderson's given me off Heaney vibes of get 2 outs, can't get a final out, the ERA between 4.5 and 5.5, and just doesn't have that close pitch. Like Heaney had the not as deep as Ryan Dempster with the adjustment of the glove, but he always had that little, I'm here, boop, boop, and then started his delivery.
Yep.
Anderson has the leg kick. And I don't want to say it's Kershaw-esque because Clayton Kershaw is a different kind of leg kick, and clearly he's dominated his career because of it. But there's something I feel that's just a tad off. We've seen great Tyler Anderson this year, even though it was a loss, not for him, but for the team in that start against Milwaukee. That's the kind of Tyler Anderson we need, you know, 4 out of every 5 starts. We all know Ohtani's going to have a clunker every once in a while. Anderson will have a clunker, but we need to have that Tyler Anderson like we saw against the Brewers. So it's really hard for me to say what is exactly pinpointing Tyler Anderson's problems. I just chalk it up to the Andrew Heaney syndrome of too many walks, can't get the 3rd strikeout. And I know this is a big thing with pitching right now. It's not a velocity thing. I know everybody said, oh, when velocity tips, you know, the pitchers, you know, his career's down the toilet like they kind of treated Jared Weaver with. I don't think it's velocity because there is some effective change-upness in Tyler Anderson's repertoire. I really think it's pitch selection and trusting what he's got, and maybe it is the shift in the pitch clock situation. Some, you know, there are pros for batters and maybe there's some negatives for some pitchers. It's hard to pinpoint. You know, we're not pitching coaches. We can just, you know, say what we see. And I feel it's a little bit of the Andrew Heaney syndrome.
I go along with your point. I think too, the pitch selection big time, because he's one of the most biggest offenders on this team that drives Gooby crazy. Because you listen to the Angels on Bally's, Gooby just can't stand when guys have 2 strikes on a hitter and they're throwing something down the middle or curving down the middle. And he's one of the biggest offenders of, I don't trust my stuff. I'm not going to throw something. And, you know, you don't have to waste a pitch, but you have to throw something that's going to tail away or outside or crowd the guy inside and try to pinpoint your pitch that way. Anderson's one of these guys that just, he gives up those 2-out hits and those 2 strike hits because, like you said, poor pitch selection. Like every time he does that, you're like, what is he thinking? And for Gooby to come on the telecast, who's usually, you know, he's got his halo honk in his hand and he's ready to go. He's upbeat, but he will say, man, when a pitcher makes a mistake like that or does something that he can easily change and to benefit himself, he's going to call him out. And Tyler Anderson's been called out on more than one occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. To get Gooby on a non-politically correct kind of jokesome mentality, that tells you something's going on.
Yep.
And it's not a detriment to Tyler Anderson in the sense of, oh my God, you know, this is the end, go retire, hang up your cleats. No, it just, we're all noticing something. And with Gooby being a pitcher, a terrific caliber pitcher back in his day, he can notice those small details that I just talked about that we can't maybe see on a pitch-by-pitch basis. So figure that out. And I think Anderson can still have a very strong key role in this rotation. You know, Ohtani's in it, Sandoval, Detmers, Anderson. It's that back end. I've been personally thrilled with Griffin Canning so far. I didn't think we were going to see him much this year, maybe not until the second half. He got healthy quick. They threw him trial by fire, and so far it's been working. His ERA is a little high, but he is giving us length. And that was something in the offseason I talked about, why I was really a proponent of Michael Lorenz coming back, even though he went to Detroit. I wanted those guys in the rotation that would give us 6 innings on a consistent basis. And Canning right now is giving us 6+ innings each time he's going out. So when push comes to shove, and we've seen now 2 consecutive starts for Jaime Barria, where he has been dominant. 5 innings against the Red Sox and another 5 innings today. 10 innings of, I think, 2-run baseball in that sense, 2 earned runs.
Not just one.
Just 1 earned run. So, yeah, that's right, because Boston, when you look at it in a bigger scope, I really think there is no room and no way the Angels can allow Jose Suarez to touch a baseball in the starting rotation. When he gets healthy, if you want to throw him out in the bullpen and kind of bring him back a little bit and see if we can muster up something out of Suarez, fine. If you allow him back in this starting rotation over Canning or even over Barria, I throw the philosophy book out the window. I can't deal with it, because I am completely content with Canning and Barria being in this rotation. If that's your 6-man rotation, I am 100% fine with it right now. Give me it in full force, and we'll kind of see what Suarez has. He's got no options. I don't know if they'll DFA him, but if you're going to DFA a guy like Ryan Tepera, the timing has to be coming up once Suarez is healthy, and if he has 2, 3, or 4 bad outings out of the bullpen. And with the bullpen getting stronger, as we've already mentioned, with Joyce, Estevez, Davinsky, Moore when he's healthy, hands-off approach. Do not give him a ball in the starting rotation, please. I know that's your boy. You wanted him for comeback. I'm gonna put some crow on you, boy, for right now.
No, believe me, I put on 10 pounds of crow with that one. I'll just say this, Suarez can be good in small doses. I thought he was ready for the big time of the rotation. He didn't live up to it, but I will say this. To go along with your point, I would not put him back into the rotation. As much as I pumped him up, I'm going to pump my own brakes. But I look at it this way. If we can DFA Loop and you have your only lefties in the bullpen would be Moore and Suarez, I think that would be good. You use Moore in high pressure situations. You use Suarez in mid relief, or if you need a couple outs, 6th or 7th inning. To go along with the other arms they got in that bullpen, if Tucker Davidson has to be a casualty, you send him down, you DFA him, then so be it. Both those guys are pitching to 7 ERAs. I know Suarez ERA was high, but I think, like I said, in small doses, I think Suarez can be effective.
I will say this. Davidson, I believe, has more options than Suarez, because Suarez has no more.
Yeah, he's out.
So you have that opportunity to send Davidson down if that situation arises. And of course, you also have the opportunity of sending Sam Bachman back down, because I don't think Bachman, out of the Double-A guys that have come up early and often this season, I think Bachman is the most expandable out of the bunch, because normally he's a starter. I don't think they want to call him up and only have him throw once a week and hurt his development. So I don't see Bachman staying up for too long until maybe Suarez gets back and they exchange roles.
Could be.
So that's where the option part of things can benefit Suarez in the cases of Davidson and Bachman. So I will take a flyer on Suarez out of the bullpen when healthy in that Davidson kind of role, middle relief, low pressure situation in a blowout game like today. I'll take it. Let's see what we can work with. And maybe having the starting pressure off of Suarez may help him out. And he always has been a great 2 to 3 inning type of guy, and then he just didn't have longevity. So maybe you just create a role for him and it works out. He has some nasty repertoire pitches. It's nothing against his stuff. It's just he's very loosey-goosey when it comes to that. So for me, rotation-wise, let's leave it where it's at. Don't mess with what it ain't broke. And Barria is rolling right now. Canning is rolling, and he's workable right now. Everybody else, you already know they're going to have a spot in the rotation in Ohtani, Sandoval, Detmers, and Anderson. Anderson just got to work on a few things. He's a savvy veteran. I think he can figure it out at this point.
100% agree with you.
Yeah. So, like we said, there's many storylines to go about this Angels season right now. They finished the month of May 15-13, and through 2 months of the year, congratulations, 3 games over 500, 30-27, roughly around 5.5 to 6 games back in the AL West right now behind Houston and the Texas Rangers, who've been hot all year. And guess what? Angels are going to Houston now for a big 4-game series. I know when this podcast is out, it'll be probably halfway through that 4-game series, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. They'll have the day off next Monday, a big homestand, 3 against the Cubs and 3 against the Seattle Mariners. It's going to be very interesting to see some interleague play in. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the Angels can start June better, get some guys who struggle in May like Renfroe on a hot streak, keep Trout, Ohtani, and Ward hot. They table set and keep those supporting players doing supporting player things of keeping the lineup lengthened. And maybe we might even get lucky and Anthony Rendon will emerge from the dugout without saying, I'm feeling amazing, and walking away, and he'll actually play a game in the month of June. It'll be fun to see what happens. But Todd, thank you for coming on in and being a co-host here in part 1 of episode number 16 on the Katella Chronicles podcast.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated for having me on.
And of course, follow everything, not just Todd, but the entire Halos in the Infield crew. They have done some phenomenal work. I am privileged to have Katella Chronicles under the Heedy umbrella. They're sponsored by 714 Tickets. Noble Ale Works is a part of them as well. All the fun things going on with Halos in the Infield, check them out on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Todd does fantastic post-game shows. The one and only James does fantastic pre-game shows. Everything you need, follow them. They're everywhere. Just type in Halos in the Infield and you will find the laundry litmus test of things that they have. Don't forget, June 9th, the live stream. Todd and I will be in the ToddFox studios and calling the Angels versus Mariners game on Friday, June the 9th. It's on Apple TV Plus, but we want you, the fans, to have a forum where you can chat, interact with us, and we will be calling the game live. We can't officially show you the game on Apple TV due to legal rights, but we'll have the running score on the bottom. We'll have the comments, we'll have the promotions, and Todd and I doing play-by-play and color commentary. We did it once last year. It was successful, not the game, but us. It was successful, yes. But we're going to do it again, this time live in person. We want you to be there. It will be on the Heedy YouTube page on Friday, June the 9th. We're going to be posting about it over the next week. So like, comment, and subscribe, and share that to everybody you know that is an Angel fan. But for right now, part 1 of episode number 16 is in the books. David and I will be coming up with part 2 of this episode 16 podcast. We're going to dive into some more Angel stuff. We'll maybe talk about some Duck stuff. We'll see where the conversation takes us. But for now, I'm Dominick Lorenz. This is Katella Chronicles. You can find us at www.katellachronicles.wordpress.com and on Twitter and Instagram at Katella_CHRON. We're the heartbeat of pro sports in Anaheim. And until next time, or I should say until part 2 with David Goodkind back in the co-host seat, I'm Dominick Lorenz, and cheers to you for now.